We have the October 14th meeting of the Conservation Commission. We'll stand and salute the flag. This meeting is being recorded.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I thought he was here. All right. Phil, you came last, so you're in the demoted seat now. That's it. All right. So first we have a soil permit for J&R Son, 17 Sodom Road, soil permit number 492.
Mr. Chairman and members, J.R. and Son, 17 Sodom Road. This is soil permit number 492. The property is located at 17 Sodom Road. The owner has applied to renew the stockpile and transfer site permit at their property. The property used to store materials that are used for the family's asphalt business. The site is in good working order. There's a buffer zone area on this site, but they are not actively working within that area. Recommendations: the Westport Soil Conservation Board should approve the soil permit number 492 for 1 year.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Any questions from the board? If not, a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Kevin and Jake, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's unanimous. You're welcome. Where do we sign on that, Chris, this one?
Right at the very left, right hand.
Oh, these
side.
little lines right here? Oh, geez. All right. Next, we have Sarah Hinson, 1636W Drift Road. This is a request for determination.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Potter cannot make it. He has another meeting. He asked if I could just do the presentation for him. It's a request for determination filed for a septic repair at 1636W Drift Road. This is Sarah Hinson's property. They're proposing a new leaching field within 54 feet of a wetland system that borders along the Westport River and a small section of Phragmites. The existing cesspool is about in the middle of the property. That's proposed to be filled in place per Title V. A new tank will be installed immediately outside the rear of the one-bedroom structure, and it will go over to that leaching field. This is going to be raised slightly because of the water table, so it's probably going to be out of the ground about 3.5 feet. But other than that, it's a repair to a system that's been there for quite some time. It's basically about the only location they have that is suitable for that design, given the well setbacks from the adjacent properties.
All right.
So I recommend for the board, the Westport Conservation Commission should approve with a negative box 3 determination, with a condition. I don't have that one with me, Mr. Chairman. I got it. With a negative box 3 determination. That's right. I mixed up the one with Antonio Rogers.
Has this gone to Board of Health yet?
I believe it has. It may have been heard tonight.
Do you know if this has been heard, Phil?
I'm not sure.
All right. Well, I guess we can just make it conditional on the...
Condition.
Yes, I think it was heard tonight, actually. Yes, it was.
All right. Was it approved?
Yes.
All right. So it was approved by the Board of Health. Anybody have any questions, concerns? All right. If not, a motion?
Well, I'll move to approve the plan for the septic repair at 1636 W Drift Road with a negative box 3 determination.
Thank you. Second from Bert. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's unanimous. Next, RDA for Antonio Rodriguez, 8 Cypress Lane, construct pool in the buffer zone. Anybody here from Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Is it Rodriguez or Rodriguez?
It's Rogers.
All right, thank you.
What's going on over there, Mr. Chow? Hold on to it.
All right.
Good evening. For the record, Stevie Cavallo of Farland Corp. On behalf of the applicant, Antonio Rodriguez. What the applicant's looking to do is simply just install an in-ground pool in an established yard behind the existing dwelling, but in front of the existing shed. Proposed work does include an associated paver patio around the around the in-ground pool. All of the work is outside of the 50-foot buffer zone and all within an established lawn area. Be happy to answer any questions.
All right, we'll read the report and then see if we have any questions.
Mr. Chairman, Antonio Rodriguez, 8 Cypress Lane. This request for determination of applicability filed by Stevie Cavallo with Farland Corp. Report date is October 7th, 2025. Site visit was also on October 7th, 2025. Description of the work: the owner has filed to construct a 16 by 32 in-ground pool within the buffer zone. The work would be within 50 feet of that wetland area. All work is within the lawn area and within the limit of work approved for the single-family home, so they're not expanding into the wooded area at all. Erosion controls will be installed as the limit of work for this project. Any water observed during the installation should be pumped through a hay bale check dam. I'm not sure if they are proposing it this time of year, but I think that is a decent special condition. Recommendations: Westport Conservation Commission should approve the in-ground pool in the buffer zone with a negative box 3 determination, with the condition that any groundwater encountered may be pumped through a hay bale check dam before a discharge, if needed.
You have any questions?
No.
No? Okay.
Keep the mics on, please.
Just a comment, the Board of Health approves in-ground pools. I don't know if they've already got a Board of Health permit, but if not, we can make it conditional on getting a permit.
Right. You know, if you,
I believe it's gone through the building permit
Okay.
process, so the Board of Health is aware of this.
Okay.
I thought I heard the applicant's consultant say there would be no work within 50 feet of the wetland area, and your description says it is within 50 feet.
It's within the first 50 feet, so I apologize. It's in the outer 50 feet of the resource area. So the pool itself is within 50 feet.
It's all outside of the 50-foot buffer.
Still got grading patio, right? For the pool itself, I got different.
This is the 50-foot buffer.
Yeah.
Everything's outside.
all right. Any questions from the audience?
It's off topic, but I had to shoehorn my truck behind yours. Just
Okay.
take a peek before you back out.
Will do.
If you hit it hard. Real hard.
All right. Any questions from the audience? Any questions from the commission? If not, a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
All those in favor? Opposed? That was Jason and Phil. And that was unanimous. All right. Thank you very much. All right, next we have continuance. Jonathan Buckman, notice of intent, 0 Pine Hill Road. SE 80 2812, construct single-family dwelling driveway grading in the inland coastal area.
Town's taking over the place.
How you doing, sir?
Good, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Evan Brodsky. I'm an environmental lawyer with DTM Law in Hingham. Hello, Mr. Weinberg, nice to see you again, sir.
All right.
And I'm here representing the applicant, Jonathan Buckman. Together with me this evening is Brad Holmes, our professional wetland scientist with ECR, Eddie Jacobs, our professional land surveyor with PMP, as well as Samantha Cripps from his office. You're familiar with this property. You're familiar with the wetland resource areas. There's no issue whatsoever with respect to the delineation of those wetland resource areas. And you're familiar with the project, but I do want to speak to the project purpose. And obviously, Mr. Buckman is not seeking just to construct a single-family dwelling and driveway anywhere on the property. He specifically selected the location of the dwelling in the uplands outside of the riverfront area because it candidly is the best location for the proposed house. So the project purpose is the proposed single-family dwelling in this preferred location. Now, I submitted to the board just some thoughts with respect to the legal aspects of this notice of intent. And I particularly addressed the access limited project provisions in the State Wetlands Protection Act regulations. And I alluded in my September 8, 2025 letter to the fact that this project may not need the limited project exception. The project, as I've indicated and is reflected in the materials submitted by Brad, meets all of the performance standards, that is, all the performance standards for work in bordering vegetated wetlands, inland bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage, which doesn't have performance standards. Neither does the buffer zone to BVW. But there's one exception with respect to riverfront area, and that is that the proposed driveway would encroach within 100 feet of the perennial stream, and therefore there's no minimum 100 feet of undisturbed vegetation under the riverfront area regulations. However, if you dig into the regulations at 310 CMAR 10.58 4D1A, it allows the Conservation Commission to permit such work if the applicant demonstrates that there's an area of undisturbed vegetation with an overall average width of 100 feet, which will provide the equivalent protection, and then alternatively, that there's a partial rebuttal of the presumption of significance sufficient to justify a lesser area of undisturbed vegetation. Brad, together with Eddie and Samantha, have actually calculated the actual average width of undisturbed vegetation that will result from this project, and I believe it's 198.5 feet. It exceeds the average 100-foot width. I also suggest that, given the fact that the lot is a little over 14 acres, and we're proposing to alter only 3.8% of the riverfront area, the board could find a partial rebuttal of the presumption of significance for this project. So what I just want to be clear is that this project can meet all of the performance standards for work within riverfront area and may not need the limited project exception for the driveway. But again, just to make sure we're bootstrapping here, if in fact we do need that exception, we've demonstrated that there's no reasonable alternative consistent with 310 CMR 10.533E. And reasonable is the key word. And I suggest that reasonable in the context of a case that's impacting the riverfront area is different than reasonable in concerning, for example, impacts to BVW. And in fact, in the riverfront area regulations, reasonable is specifically defined to mean practicable and substantially equivalent economically, taking into consideration costs, existing technology, proposed use, and logistics. And I believe, in my research, this is because it was never the intention of the Rivers Act to prohibit construction in the riverfront area. The goal was to preserve as much as reasonably possible within the riverfront area to protect the perennial stream or river. The access limited project exception does not define reasonable, but I suggest that it should be informed by the riverfront regulations in this case and the purpose of the Rivers Act. The proposed location, again, in the uplands closer to the West Fork River, is the only reasonable alternative to achieve Jonathan's project purpose. In fact, denying an order of conditions for that preferred alternative may result in a loss of significant market value of this property. I provided to the Conservation Commission a market value analysis of the proposed dwelling in the preferred location versus market value of, for example, a house along Pine Hill Road, and that diminution value is approximately $2 million, a very substantial amount of money. It just so happens that that alternative appears to be preferred by the neighbors. I understand that there were numerous neighbors submitting letters in support of the project, and I suggest they don't want to see a dwelling in a different location. They prefer to see the dwelling in the preferred location. I don't know how deep you want me to go into the case that I cited in my letter. I found only one reported case that addressed an access limited project which did not comply with riverfront standards. More often than not, you see a lot of cases dealing with bordering vegetated wetlands. Someone who's proposing to alter more than 5,000 square feet of BVW and needs relief because anything more than that's prohibited under the state regulations. So I gave you the case of the matter of Jeff Amara. In that case, the applicant owned a little over 30 acres and in fact proposed a 3-lot subdivision. that subdivision was proposed to be accessed by, the proposed access to those uplands was proposed by a bridge over the perennial stream. The presiding officer in that case found that the access limited project complied with the exemption standards, and the applicant was not in that case required to accept an offer to sell his land as advocated by 10 residents group. Apparently there was an abutter willing to purchase land for open space, and the abutters wanted to consider that as an alternative. Ultimately, the presiding officer upheld Mass DEP's approval of that roadway project. I think that case is interesting because there's no argument made that Mr. Amaro needed to reduce the scope of this project, that, for example, he was only entitled to 1 house and not 3 houses. And I think recognized this concept of economic practicability that I think is special under the riverfront regulations. So with that said, I'd like to have Brad, with your permission, to explain the calculation of the average width of undisturbed vegetated area.
Before we go into that,
Yes, sir.
our question or our issue is not the access, assuming that were the only place he could put the house. Our issue is the fact that he does have another buildable lot or a potentially buildable lot up front, up top. And I know the neighbors don't want it there, and I know he doesn't want to be there. I would want to be down where he wants to be too. But from what we read and what our attorney said, if you have another practical alternative on your lot, in your name, titled in your name, then you have to take that before you go and do the limited project.
So town council didn't render an opinion one way or the other. He simply recognized what the regulations said, and that is that you need to demonstrate that there's no reasonable alternative. I've suggested that you need to interpret the word reasonable in the context of the riverfront regulations, which are special, because those are the only wetland regulations that factor in economic considerations. And so I believe that what I presented to you is entirely consistent with what town council told you. This is what the regulations say. You need to make a determination. Again, if we need an access limited project exception, if you need to reach that issue, you need to determine what is reasonable in the context. The word reasonable, again, is not defined in the wetland regulations. I suggest that you need to, or I should say, is generally not defined in the wetland regulations. You need to define and interpret reasonable in the context of the riverfront regulations, which do specifically allow you to consider economic considerations.
So I have a comment on that part
Yes,
of
sir.
it. And I don't have the regulation, the riverfront regulation in front of me, but my recollection is that it's pretty specific as to the type of costs
Yes, sir.
that can be calculated. And I view them as out-of-pocket costs to design and construct the project. And for example, it says profits that you might lose if you don't get what you want is not considered a cost. And what I see you're proposing is that there is this speculative, based on other properties, loss of future value to the property in the event he doesn't get to construct a house with a river view. And I don't see that as an out-of-pocket cost, the way that is expressed in the riverfront regulations. Now, I could be wrong, but to me, there's an analogy between the regulation specifically excluding lost future profits from a proposed alternative as not counting towards an economic factor is the same as saying, well, my property values could go up in the future if I execute according to what I want.
So Robert, you're correct. There's a specific definition of cost, and it specifically talks about profits. This is not a for-profit. This is not a speculative developer coming in order to maximize profit. You have a gentleman who wishes to construct his personal home. I'm talking about the intrinsic value of the property would be affected that, I think, is reasonable to consider for purposes of, again, the economic effect of on the alternatives analysis. So again, perhaps, and that's why the Amber case is kind of interesting, they allowed that gentleman to develop a 3-lot subdivision, again, without consideration. So theoretically, I guess if it's unclear from the record, why didn't they say to him, oh, well, we'll give you 1 lot, but not 3? I think there's a difference between lost profit and the intrinsic market value of this property, which informs the decision as to reasonable alternatives.
Well, I guess, without being repetitive, I view the regulation to talk much more to out-of-pocket costs in comparing the ability to execute the projects. And also in the alternatives, if we went down this path, in the alternatives analysis, the only critique of Lot 1, the lot that's closer to the public way, in the alternatives analysis was, and I fully understand it, I've been there myself personally, is, the loss of, privacy in their own viewshed. But you really didn't provide an economic analysis to compare them. Economically, what would the value of the property be on Lot 1 as compared to the value of the property on Lots 2?
We did provide that analysis.
I guess I didn't see that in the version of that I saw. But
no, we submitted a separate submittal with a market value analysis as well as the resume of the real estate professional.
I saw that for the, anyway.
Again, as I said, I don't think you even need to reach the limited project exception. Because as Brad will explain to you, we are providing the equivalent environmental protection, which is the whole purpose of this exercise and the purpose of the riverfront regulations here. And demonstrate that as we meet all those performance standards, we don't need to rely upon that exception. So,
I understand, but no one has answered, and I asked Mr. Holmes this a couple times the last meeting. Why are you not, I understand you want the value, you want the view. I agree 100% with that, it's great. But how I read the particular section that Chris gave to us on limited project, it talks about the fact that there's no other area on the property that can be used. No one's answered the question other than the fact that the neighbors don't want it and I don't want it, or they, Mr.
yes, sir.
So that doesn't, so to me, that it's not how much wetlands, because I mean, if you didn't have that lot up front, this would probably get approved. I mean, I'm not saying it's not gonna get, I don't vote for everybody. If you didn't have that lot up front, this would be probably not as big an issue.
This is a closer case. I think what you're referring to is the wetlands policy 88-2.
Do you have that, Chris? I don't know.
There's an inherent problem with that, because that policy was actually drafted in 1988. The Rivers Act was adopted in 1996, and the Riverfront Area Regulations was adopted in 1997. DEP never went back to that access policy to specifically address riverfront. They actually did go back in 1997 to the limited project regulations, and they broadened those regulations to include riverfront. So the relevance of the DEP policy with respect to riverfront area, I question,
Okay.
to be quite honest. It just has not been updated. And I stand to be corrected by Mr. Weinberg. I believe that's how that all went down.
All right. I mean, if Mr. Holmes wants to give us a brief description, that's fine, but I mean, like I said, I don't believe the way we see it, or the way I see it anyway, that how much alteration is the real issue, or my sticking point, me personally. I can't speak for the other guys.
That's why we're providing you with, I think, a more direct way to address this issue, because we're going to show you that this, in fact, meets the performance standards for work in the riverfront area. Brad, do you want to explain? Thank you very much.
The one point towards the policy is, as Adam mentioned, I think that policy was geared to bordering vegetated wetlands where you had a maximum of 5,000 square feet. Again, prior to the wetlands, prior to the riverfront regulations. So if this project was a BBW project and we didn't have a riverfront and we were trying to go over 5,000 square feet to get to this part,
the limited project provisions would direct you back to what you're talking about.
Okay.
We're way under 5,000 square feet of BBW, so we're not held to that. What Adam was describing about is we included the limited project provisions because we can't avoid going over the stream to get to this upland. But when you look at the no significant adverse impact for riverfront, it talks about the first 100 feet, but as Adam mentioned before, it talks about what's your overall width. Do you have at least 100 feet of overall undisturbed inner riparian area? Because this property here has riverfront on all three sides, so we have riverfront all the way through here, and on this side, you have an enormous amount of riverfront distance on the site. And what PMP has been able to calculate is the overall undisturbed riverfront area, the distance is 198.5 feet. The reason for that is because all that we're occupying for the riverfront is for this driveway here. We would be able to maximize out to 10% so that the house and yard could enter this area, but we don't need to. We can keep it outside and keep the riverfront at only 3.8% as proposed, so that what you're looking at is this project maintains all that 200 feet on this side, almost 200 feet, except when you calculate this and you calculate that, you come out with a total of 198.5 feet of undisturbed buffer, way beyond, undisturbed riverfront, way beyond the 100-foot distance that's listed in the no significant adverse impact.
All right. Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Do you guys have any comments or questions?
So maybe I need a point of clarification as to whether or not the applicant is saying that I think it's lot 1, which is the lot closer to the public way, is a viable alternative, but it's not practicable as the riverfront regulations define them because of the greater property value of lot 2? Is that the argument? Or is they saying that it's not doing the alternatives analysis, you don't have to consider lot 1 as a available alternative? Does that question make sense? Like, is your case turning on the economic difference, or are you just saying that there are some features of lot 1 that just don't make it available?
I can't speak to the features of lot 1 because the preferred location is lot 2. And yes, our argument is if we need the limited project provision, that because of the difference in extrinsic value of those two propositions, that no one would choose to develop lot 1 and not lot 2.
Okay,
Right,
I understand. Okay. I mean, just one more comment. I appreciate the comments that were made about the limited impact on wetland resources, but my understanding of the analysis is the commission's job to minimize wetlands impacts. Even if you might allow an alteration, I think we're in a situation where you have one lot where there is no wetlands impacts, and you have the other lot where there are at least 3 wetland impacts relative to, and I just think that is a distinction that makes a difference as to how we're supposed to implement the regulation. It's permittable, but it's still...
I don't disagree with you that the wetland regulations aspirationally want you to avoid wetland impacts.
Right.
However, they also incorporated performance standards which allow you to...
Absolutely, yeah.
To impact wetlands, provided you present credible evidence that you meet those performance standards.
Right.
which is what we have done this
Yeah.
evening. So I share with you your aspiration, but as a
Right.
practical matter, there's a pathway here to issuing an order of conditions to approve this project.
Right. And I understand what you're saying is the distinction is that Lot 2 is more valuable than Lot 1, and so the applicant has a right to choose the lot that achieves greater economic value to him.
Only because the one standard that we do not meet is riverfront. As Brad suggested, if we were talking about BVW, it would be a very different conversation. It's simply because when considering alternatives in the riverfront area, there's this economic consideration at its core, and was placed there, I believe, intentionally, because again, reading the preamble to the Rivers Act, there's never an intention to use the Rivers Act to prohibit development in the riverfront area. They simply wish to regulate it. Nothing that we're going to do is going to impair the functioning of that riverfront to protect those perennial streams and rivers. It's such a de minimis alteration in this case.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
The limited project regulations don't consider economic value. It's only wetland impacts. And economic value under the wetland regulations seems irrelevant.
All right. Anybody else? Nothing from the audience? All right, then looking for a motion.
Just point of order, Chair, are we,
Yeah.
the motion based on the report that we have?
What, I mean, it's up to you. You can vote to approve it, or you can vote to deny. That's up to whoever wants to make the motion. I can go vacuum the hallway.
Well,
Thank you.
Because I referred to a report, is that a report from the agent on this? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's a report written by the agent.
Would you have an extra copy?
I should have one. I don't know. You want to give me a copy? Or you already wrote on yours? I don't know what to do with mine. I'll give you one before, in just a minute.
Take that one.
Thank you very much.
I don't know what happened, Lauren. What's it date?
well,
10:10? All right. This is 9:10.
just to move the discussion forward and to express, my own personal opinion is this is just a complicated, I feel it's like a complicated project affecting a complicated set of regulations, which is the riverfront regulations. And I'm concerned that we have this fairly, I don't know, unique situation of there being a buildable lot on the same property that the applicant owns, which has no impact on wetlands at all. And this other issue about whether the distinction is between these two properties, the difference in economic valuation of the project. And secondly, and I don't think that the alternatives analysis was circulated among members of the board. I just happened to see it, today, and I'm not sure that it really, kind of passes muster, because the only part that I saw was speaking to the legitimate concerns of the abutters but, you know, that's not a issue that is, or a concern that the riverfront regulations. And so it may be that, so that leads me to think that it's a complex enough issue that that might benefit from getting DEP's view on this, because it's really potentially significant if we approve a project like this where you have you know, one lot that has no wetland impact and another piece of the property has wetland impacts, but it'll yield higher property values for the, you know, for the applicant. I think that can open up a lot of projects, and I'm concerned about setting a precedent without confidence that we're doing the right thing under the regulations to do that. So that motivates me to, you know, deny the project. But I don't know what other people on the commission feel.
We deny it, presumably they'll appeal, and DEP wishes superseding order of conditions, and we'll have the states.
That's what I, you know, and I realize that that is, you know, a burden on the applicant. But at least in my experience on the commission, I view this as a fairly precedent-setting set of circumstances, which could have ramifications. Most of the other riverfront projects that we look at, and the vast majority of them that we approve, are much more bread and butter than I think the set of facts in this case are. So.
Was that a motion?
Well, I'm just offering, don't want to be,
Well, right now.
I want to hear other commission members' opinions about it.
Sure.
If it, you know, if it's not, if not, I'll, just to promote the discussion, I'll make the motion and see what happens. But, okay, so I would move, I move to deny the notice of intent because it doesn't meet it doesn't meet the requirements for the limited project review for roadway access or the riverfront regulations, because there is a reasonable, practical alternative lot owned by the applicant for the proposed project without any wetlands impacts.
I second that. To follow up on Phil, I think this is probably a discussion that's going to obviously be elevated beyond us. We're asked for legal counsel and legal opinion. The town council provided that opinion, and we're going to use that obviously in this denial. Let it move forward. I think that's probably the best course of action for us to protect our town and protect our wetlands.
I can just make one comment?
Sure.
I guess, Phil, the precedent-setting aspect of this doesn't concern me that much, because there's enough gray area in this situation that it's highly unlikely that in the foreseeable future we'll have another similar project. So, and we always have the option to kick it up to DEP. So I'm not afraid that we're going to upend our waterfront regulations in town just because of this one. And I struggle with this one because I see what we've had to hold our noses and vote for with some of the ground array solar projects and the really adverse impacts that our votes have had on abutters and multi-generational properties. And this one, if there is some degree of gray area, I guess I want to tiptoe into that gray area, because allowing the applicant to do what he wants to do benefits the abutters. He's going to extraordinary measures to build a bridge I guess if there
Mhm.
is a hint of gray area in this situation, I guess I want to go there. I don't, other than maybe slightly bending a regulation or whatever, I think this is a situation that warrants a little bit of discretion and not necessarily just the letter of the law.
All right. Any other comments? Okay, so we have a motion from Phil, a second from Jake. All those in favor? Opposed?
Right.
All right, I'm in favor, so that's 4-2. So that carries, Leo.
Thank you.
Jason and Kevin opposed.
Thank you, good night.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Susan Etsy, notice of intent, 44 Palmer Lane, construct fixed pier, gangway, and float in place of existing pier. Alan, how are you? Good. You too, bud.
Following Alan from?
Yes.
Oh, I do, I see it.
Did I put that in there? I'm sorry, it's SE 80 2813. Thank you.
Where we're located. I don't have one, or pictures of the existing. Thank you. Okay.
Whenever you're ready, Alan.
All right, thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Alan Peru. And for this hearing, I'm representing Susan Esty and Larry Sullivan. They're both here. And they own a house at 44 Palmer Lane on the shore of the Westport River West Branch. We propose to replace an existing pier and mooring piles with a 69-foot-long fixed pier, 20-foot gangway, and a 10-by-20 float with float stops, designed in accordance with current regulations. The record waterways license plan, 3 sheets, is dated September 12th, 2025, revised through October 6th, 2025. On the easel or on the board, I have an enlargement of sheet 1, the plan view of a waterways license plan. And I highlighted in yellow the property line here. This is the existing house. There is an existing pier in the same location where we are proposing the new pier. The new pier will be elevated to meet the 1.5 to 1 with the height ratio over a 8-foot wide strip of salt marsh along the existing stone revetment at the shoreline. So as you can see, about 24 feet of the pier is actually on the land, but we established the height of the deck of the pier based on the requirement for crossing this bit of salt marsh. So we narrowed the pier to 40 inches for the first 3 pile bays until we get across the salt marsh, and then we widen the pier to 48 inches for the seaward 3 pile bays. So the length of the pier is approximately the same as what's there. We're going to remove the existing pier and remove a couple of mooring piles and install a 20-foot gangway and a float. So on the plan, I've highlighted the mean high water line in dark blue and the mean low water in a dashed blue line. Approximately 130 feet offshore is a eelgrass meadow, eelgrass bed, which we located. And the proposed float is approximately 49 feet from the eelgrass bed. On the property, there exists a stone seawall revetment and an 8-foot wide strip of salt marsh along the face of the seawall, and an eelgrass bed approximately 130 feet offshore. The width of the proposed pier over the salt marsh is 40 inches. The deck elevation is 6.8 mean sea level, which meets the 1.5 to 1 height to width ratio recommended by the Department of Marine Fisheries. The pier is 5 feet minimum above the salt marsh, measured to the bottom of the stringers. The width of the seaward 3 pile bays of the pier is 48 inches. We propose 4 piles to anchor the float with float stops to keep the float 30 inches minimum above the substrate and shellfish habitat. The proposed float is approximately 49 feet away from the eelgrass bed. David Pichette, wetlands consultant, performed an eelgrass survey at the property on July 12, 2025. His report to the commission is dated July 31st, 2025. We received a report and a project review letter from Amanda Davis, environmental analyst, the Division of Marine Fisheries, dated September 26, 2025. So I have a copy of those 2 reports for you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
To respond positively to Amanda's comments, we added the following 2 notes on sheet 1. The piles for the existing pier and existing mooring piles shall be fully removed from the substrate rather than cut at the base. The float stops shall be set to keep the entire float 2.5 feet minimum above the substrate at mean low water. And then we refer to that note in the detail and on the profile sheet. The Mass DEP file number is SE80-2813. And we respectfully request the approval of this plan, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Chris will read the report, and then we can get into questions.
Mr. Chairman, Susan Etsy and Larry Sullivan, 44 Palmer Lane. This is a notice of intent application filed by Haru Engineering with Alan Haru representing. The report date is October 6, 2025. The file number with no adverse comments is SE802813. As Alan cordially passed out, we've also have DMF comments, and they have some minor concerns for the eelgrass beds, as Alan had indicated in his presentation. The description of the work: the applicant has filed to license and build a new fixed pier, gangway, and float on the west branch of the river. The site has an existing fixed pier that will be removed. The new fixed pier in the same general location. As Alan mentioned, the first section will be 40 inches wide, extending out to a section then will be 48 inches wide to a length of 69 feet. There will be a 3x20 gangway and a 10x20 float. The orientation of the pier in the west to east direction, which is favorable to allow sunlight to penetrate under the structure for this particular dock. The eelgrass survey conducted by Dave Pichette identifies sparse eelgrass 35 feet to the main eelgrass bed and approximately 60 feet out from the farthest existing pile. As Alan referenced in his presentation, those piles are what David used for his location of those sparse areas. Alan's willing to remove those piles in a restoration effect for the concerns that DMF had. The dock will not provide any shade or prop wash to this large eelgrass bed. If you see in the photo that I gave you in your report, that little hatched line I put is actually the visible bed. So you can see that the dock still has a distance between that and that main bed. When you look on the aerial photos, unfortunately, Leon didn't put this in color, but it's so clear that you can visually see it from the naked eye in that aerial portrayal. The dock will maintain the 5-foot height. That will not require stairs for public egress. Reflective tape is to be installed on all seaward edges per the marine services. And the dock will require float stops to maintain the 30 inches from the bottom. Resource areas to be impacted is land subject to coastal storm flowage, land containing shellfish, coastal bank, and riverfront. I have the following recommendation for the board. The Westport Conservation Commission should approve the proposed fixed pier, gangway, and float on the west branch of the river for file number SE802813 with standard dock conditions, Mr. Chairman. That is all.
Thank you. Any questions, Alan?
No.
All right. Any questions from the audience? All right.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Jake, second from Jason. Any discussion or questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's unanimous, Alan.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Alan. Okay.
Did you plan up for the whole evening?
Alan, what's that? What's that? What's that right there?
That's shells.
That's Charlotte White's, it's a solid fill pier at the end of Palmer Lane.
Yeah, and they filled it with, they put clamshells on it.
that why it's so
Base.
And what property is that?
Bucky LeBlanc.
Bucky LeBlanc.
Oh, this is part, okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, Bucky's close by there. One of his is.
Yeah.
Okay,
Might be next one down.
Nicholas Laird, notice of intent, 200 Atlantic Avenue, renovations to single-family dwelling and associated septic upgrade with grading in the buffer zone and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Didn't we have this last time? Did we have a Laird? No? No. All right, are you representing Mr. Laird?
Yes.
Do you have your abutter notification cards?
I don't have a physical copy of those.
Did you send us copies?
Yes, we did.
Do we have, you sent this green card receipts?
Yes, I believe we did. If not, I can.
Well, if we can't open the hearing unless we have them, so, I mean,
I can double check. I know you sent me the proof that you sent them out, but you didn't get any responses back from the applicants? Usually you get a return receipt? No?
I would have to check on that.
Could you check your folder?
Yeah.
Just. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
all right, we got it, that's
We
fine.
got them. They're in there. I apologize for that.
All right, go ahead and side presentation, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abby Ismail, project manager for Principe Engineering, representing the applicant. So this project is related to interior renovations to the house to increase bedrooms from the existing 3-bedroom to 5 bedrooms. So with that, there is also the proposed upgrade of the septic system, both the leach field and the tank. The existing septic system was installed in 1985. It's located in the southeast of the site. A portion of the existing leach field does encroach into the 100-foot wetland buffer zone that's associated with the area of ponding in the lower lawn. So the proposed plan is to abandon that existing leach field and relocate the new leach field fully outside of the buffer zones. And with the upgrade as well, we will be adding innovative and alternative technologies with denitrification, which was not present in the existing septic system. So there is, in addition to the area of ponding in the lower lawn, there is also a coastal bank associated with Rhode Island Sound to the south of the site. So we have, on this plan, we've indicated the setbacks to both this initial bank that's immediately adjacent to the water, and then we have also indicated a secondary bank associated with this slope off of Beach Avenue. So we have this dimension is to the very outer edge of the area that we disturbed for the new leach field. So we have over 225 feet to this secondary coastal bank and more to the one that's directly adjacent to the water, as well as over 100 feet to this wetland area of ponding in the lower lawn. If I can continue, I have Brendan Phaneuf here with me to speak more on the wetlands, or?
Sure, no, it's absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Brandon Phaneuf, professional wetland scientist with Ecosystem Solutions. Yeah, so just a quick rundown on our wetland resource areas. Land under the ocean, beach. Then we got the top of the first coastal bank. Then there's a dune that goes to Beach Ave, and then we have that separation of Beach Ave, and just past it, there's a little rise, which Abby here did the calculations on, based on Chris's recommendations, because he thought there might be a second coastal bank. And come to find out, that rise right there does meet the criteria, so she created a second coastal bank on the north side of Beach Avenue, which has its own 100-foot buffer zone. And then it goes down into a hollow. And the funny thing is that this entire area, all this area is the people here like manicure it, if you haven't seen it, but in here there's a hollow that fills up with water. And you can see it on aerial photographs, especially for the spring photographs, like the April photographs. And at this point, we didn't do a delineation, but it's pretty well confined, right around to elevation 5, that we're presuming to be a wetland area. And then the land continues to go up to where the house and the leach field are proposed. The entire area, just about, is also within land subject to coastal storm flowage, the 100-year coastal floodplain, and it's the coastal VE zone, velocity zone. Okay, so on our submission, Mr. Capone made some very useful comments, and he has a valid point as well. Are there any other coastal banks here, because the land does continue to rise? So Abigail and I did the calculations, and we did a analysis of the slope going from this low area right here, we're presuming the wetland, up to about where the septic system is. And we found it had a 17-to-1 slope, which does not meet the criteria for a coastal bank. But then Mr. Capone came back as well. You really need to include the entirety of the flood zone. So we have to go back to the drawing board to satisfy Mr. Capone, which is what we plan to do with the cross-sectional details of each one of these slope transects. So that's where we stand right now.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're looking for a continuance? A 2-week continuance, 4-week?
Yes, please.
2?
2 or 4. Yeah, I think you can get this done too. Yeah.
2 weeks, okay.
2 weeks unless Mr. Capone has further comments.
Do you want to just continue in 2 weeks?
I only would like to express that this plan was received today, and we require a week in advance submittal of any revised plans. Secondly, I don't necessarily believe that they met the coastal bank requirements by their presentation tonight. They need to have a transect line showing the slope profile as well as a cross-section. In my opinion, there is, I believe, a coastal bank further up the slope than what they represent. And that's based on it. As you get closer up the hill, there's a very flat spot, as Brendan mentioned, but as you get closer towards the home, there's a rise and a set of ledge. So I know that they're very, let me go back. This is new construction. They're increasing flow. So this applicant needs to meet Title V to a T. There's no variances allowed. So my concerns are we need to see this coastal bank referenced accurately for the Board of Health's interpretation so that they can make a decision on their side of the Title V issue. We have now an activity entirely within a velocity zone, which is a very volatile resource area. So there is a septic system currently adjacent to their proposed location, but because of the increase in flow, this gets looked at a lot more stringently. In my opinion, their septic tank, based on Title V, needs to be sited outside the velocity zone as well. And I'm stretching that opinion because that's kind of a Board of Health requirement, but they're going to try to present this to us. We should have a plan that's going to meet the Board of Health's requirements as well. So I do suggest a 2-week continuance. I am looking for that coastal bank profile showing those cross sections as well, and any consideration they have if they can relocate that septic component for a Title V. That is all I have.
Do you think 2 weeks is enough to get all this
It
done?
is. We shall get everything that Mr. Capone asked for, and then, the numbers will be what they are.
That's correct. I'm not trying to make them what they're not.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
not here to say you can't do this. I'm saying you have a very unique situation. You got ledge. There really is no other area to put the leaching field. So I want to follow through with Title V. It does have that allowance for them if they do not have a feasible location through the Board of Health to get that approved. So I
Okay.
am not here to deny the project. I would just like to see all the resource areas identified.
All right, move for a motion for a 2-week continuance.
Motion continue.
Second.
Okay, that was Jake and Jason. All in
Thank
favor?
you.
So that's what, the 29th?
28.
28th, okay.
Thank you for hearing us.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening. So that's continued to the 28th. That was unanimous now. All right, moving right along. Tracy Piva, notice of intent, 0 Register Ave, construct single-family dwelling with point source discharge in the buffer zone. Anybody here for Ms. Piva? All right. What's that?
100 questions. Be prepared.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name, for the record, my name is George Ayoub. I'm representing
Do you have
Tracy
the
Piva.
Let me have the green card, please, George. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Just wait for Chris to get back. We'll be back in just a second. All right. Oh, he's back. All right. You want a drink? Yeah. You good? All right. Whenever you're ready, George.
This is the original plan, okay? Septic plan. Okay, gentlemen, what we have here is, we have 2 grandfather vacant lots. They were combined together. They were created in 1917, over 100 years ago. Those are buildable lots. They're, the total area of the lot, both of them, is 64,000 square feet. This is the limit right here. We got about 400 feet frontage on Register Avenue and another 400 feet frontage on Construct Ave. And those 2 streets are not developed right now. They are basically treed. There's no access over there. We got quite a bit of upland on those 2 lots. There's some upland here and upland here. And the area of the upland is 27,780 square feet. And we got some wetlands in the middle. And the area is about 36,220 square feet. Those lots were recently perked, and we're proposing a 3-bedroom, single-family house on the lot on a slab. It's not going to have a basement. Also, we're proposing a gravel driveway, and adjacent to the driveway, we have proposing a swale along Register Ave from the intersection of Long Street all the way to the property. The wetland line has been flagged and approved by the agent a while back, and we're not proposing any work within 25 feet of the wetland line, except the well will be located at least about 10 feet from the wetland line. All other work is outside the 25-foot buffer zone. We are proposing a new septic system that meet the state and town requirements. And for the septic system, we are using a microfast system instead of a regular conventional tank which is now a town requirement, by the way. And this will reduce the nitrogen in the ground. And we also are proposing a quick for the leaching field, which is reduce the area by 40% and will recharge the effluent in the ground more safely. In addition to this, we are proposing a dry well to pick up the roof runoff and store it and infiltrate it in the soil. In addition to this, we are proposing another 12-inch pipe that brought our attention lately under Lone Street to help the situation here. Siltation fence will be added at the 25-foot buffer, and after that, the area will be loomed and seeded, and the driveway will be gravel. We're going to have the driveway will be from this point to the property, and we got quite a bit of flat area proposed right here. It's at least 50-foot diameter in case for emergency vehicle. And again, we're not working within 25-foot buffer. All work is in upland area, and it's a straightforward, small single-family house, nothing else. All the roof runoff will be discharged on the ground, and that's it. I mean,
Chris will read his report, and then, quick question, you said Register Ave and Conscript Ave, you don't have access to them? Or did you say you don't have access to Conscript or Register Ave?
what happened, this is Conscript Avenue here and Register Avenue here. I think the last house is right here. This is a tree. We got some wetlands over here. And the best access is to come around Lone Street and access the property here. We're not impacting any wetland. And no work here. There are some wetlands on the other side of Lone Street. Again, this is a 50-foot buffer right here. We're not working anything within 50
Okay.
foot of.
All right, I just wanted to understand, I wasn't quite clear. Thank you, I appreciate that. Chris?
Mr. Chairman, members, Tracy Piva, Register Ave. Again, this doesn't really have an address. This is a notice of intent application filed by George Ayub, engineer of record. The report date is October 9th, 2025. There's a file number issued by the state with no address comments. It's SE 802-814. Agencies required to be, status would be the building department and the Board of Health. Description of work: the owner has filed to construct an access to the property located on a section of Register Ave, not constructed. The owner also is proposing a single-family home, well, sewage disposal system, and grading within the buffer zone to wetlands. The wetlands have been delineated on an abbreviated resource area delineation and approved, an order of resource area delineation and approved, except the section of wetland located on others' property to the east. This happens to be the wetland to the east of Lone Street. This wetland is just below Lone and registered intersections. This was found after the owner determined that this would be his least all adverse effect access, rather than coming in as he previously was considering from Register Ave. So this has been discussed with the board prior because there was some activity on the site. And numerous complaints have been coming in for the past couple months. So this access is being designed of adequate width to satisfy the fire department, and use in an emergency is capable with a hammerhead that will be proposed as a turnaround in the property itself. The access in the beginning will require a culvert to be installed under Lone Street to allow the water to flow from the west parcels over to the east section of that wetland. The access way and frontage must be reviewed by the building commissioner, determine if it satisfies the zoning requirements and if it is adequate for those considerations. A drainage swale will be installed on the north side of the access, and this will direct any stormwater toward the wetland east of Lone Street. Now, in George's presentation, he didn't mention that he has provided drainage calculations that show that there is no adverse effects from this design that would contribute to more off-site water flow, and everything has been designed in accordance with those drainage calculations. The single-family house, well, and septic are proposed on the lots owned by the applicant. All this work is within 25 feet of the wetland previously approved. A 32 by 28 home developed on a slab will be constructed 34 feet at the closest point to the wetland. The septic system in this case is allowed under the pre-existing lot criteria, and its location meets the minimum setback of Title V of 50 feet from a wetland. A denitrification component is part of that design, which is a requirement on pre-existing lots from the Board of Health. The well location is shown within the 25-foot no activity area on the south end of the lot. The proposed well location is the only portion of the lot that can have the well installed in order to maintain the 100 feet from septics and its septic itself. The total amount of disturbance on this small lot area will be 6,750 square feet, including the house. Erosion controls will be required to be installed along the 25-foot limit and along the access way on both sides. Again, as I mentioned, the Board of Health needs to approve the septic. Roof runoff will be diverted into a dry well system, as George mentioned, within that small upland area. Resource areas to impacted, again, for the commission, this is only a buffer zone activity, except that minor crossing that they do in the beginning of Lone Street, but I can't constitute that as wetland. And per se, it's more of a conveyance of water, allowing water from one side to make it to the other side. One of the neighbors had conditions that iced up, so we're trying to alleviate any of those concerns and make sure the water stays away and does not affect any of the abutting property owners. So recommendations for this board tonight: the Westport Conservation Commission should approve the proposed project, file number SC802814, with the conditions. This is pending Board of Health approval. Mass DEP file number was received today. The conditions are as follows: erosion controls to be staked in place and will be the limit of all clearing and along both sides of the access constructed. Well location will require an excavated sump adjacent to collect any spoils during the installation. Disturbed area within the 25-foot no activity area shall be stabilized with native seed mixture. Split rail fence or similar to be erected along the entire length of the 25-foot no activity area and shall remain in perpetuity. Drainage swale to be installed during the access construction and stabilized with hay bale check dams until seeding establishes. All disturbed edges of the access shall be seeded immediately upon completion. A 12-inch ADS pipe culvert to be installed under the access at Lone Street will require an as-built plan to ensure proper elevations have been obtained, and riprap aprons installed on the inlet and outlet sides of that installation. Lastly, I added was roof runoff is to be directed into a dry well system. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Do you have any questions, George?
No.
All right. Any questions from the table? All right. Questions from the audience? All right, start right up here in the front. So, just state your name and just ask a question, please.
My name's Bob Gagney. I live at the west end of this property at the top. Lots 340 to 345. And before I start, I just want to be clear that I'm not a civil engineer, environmental engineer, septic engineer, or any such thing. So my questions and concerns might seem irrelevant or perhaps even ignorant. So please just bear with me, because I do have a lot of questions and concerns about this plan. As far as frontage goes, are they proposing that the frontage is on the lot adjacent to them or on their property? Where is their frontage coming from, I guess, is my initial concern.
George, can you answer that?
The frontage right here. 400 feet frontage.
So none of that needs to be cleared, paved, there's no requirements for any of that? Okay.
No question.
I mean, you're better off not clearing it because the trees are better than, you know, the
Right.
brush, okay?
Again, I have a lot of little questions that I look at when I look at this plan.
Can I just add to that, Mr. Chairman? It's deceiving, Bob, but they are creating a hammerhead that is considered frontage as well. So in front of their property, George is referring to the actual frontage in the property. They actually have frontage being created here, and then the hammerhead comes down into the property, goes across, and comes like this. So they're actually providing 50 foot of frontage for this property.
I like it, yeah.
So, at what I understand, the minimum that they need from what they were told is 50 foot of frontage, so I hope that answers that question.
I thought I had heard 100 feet myself, but
The 150 foot is needed for a lot of new construction today. This is, again, we're referring
grandfathered, right, I
to a
understood
lot
that.
of historical record, I guess you could say.
all right, so moving on past that, the plan for the access road coming up from Ruin Street, their plan basically says to only remove 4 inches of topsoil and then fill that back with, or remove the topsoil, I'm sorry, and replace that with 4 inches of gravel. The topsoil in that area is about a foot thick of organic material. So are we removing a foot of organic material down to the clay layer and then just putting 4 inches of gravel on top of that? Is that what the plan is?
Basically, just remove all the topsoil and just put gravel there.
So don't we need a thicker, to maintain the grade, don't we need a
This is
thicker?
only driving for one person.
Understood.
It's not a roadway for
But,
heavy equipment, yeah.
but it is going to be bringing a ton of heavy equipment up there.
Yes, but we'll remove the topsoil and just add gravel there. That's a same elevation, we're not changing the elevation.
To that point, do we have a map of the original elevations of this area? All I see on this map is the proposed final plan elevations.
Those are the existing elevation right here.
Which ones? Show me. The only ones I see are existing, the 2 CEDHs,
I
right?
understand, but this is one elevation 180, this has been surveyed. The lot had all the flags here, been flagged by Jim Walsh's over there.
Yep, I'm familiar with the
And
wetlands.
this is this elevation, 181, 182, 183, we're not touching this.
Understood.
Let's stay.
I'm more concerned obviously with this area.
This is the only area that we're working on, no work within 5 feet of the property, we're safe, this is the law.
Alright.
We stay 5 feet, and within the house, and the system will be on that upland area. The septic system will be more than 50 feet from the wetland, the house will be
All right,
about
George.
34 feet.
Go ahead, Bob.
All right, so my next concern is they're basically, according to the way I read the plan, they're raising the slab of the house up 5 feet from grade.
No,
If you look at this,
we're raising the ground about almost 3 feet, we have to maintain separation from the septic system.
See you later, Jim.
This is,
right, if you look at this part of the plan,
yeah.
you're basically saying this, the top of the slab is
This is
187.9,
not, yeah, 187, right.
whereas our general elevation is 182, so the
Another
Oh, I
elevation,
thought you were-
it's one right here, yeah, 182, right.
so we're bringing the slab of this house up 5 feet, roughly.
We have to raise the elevation of the septic system, we need 4 feet separation.
I'm gonna get to that part in a minute.
And the slab has to be higher than the existing
Understood.
finished grade.
What is, is you're worried about water runoff, is that the big?
In the end, that is part of what
All
we're
right.
worried off, we're bringing the slab of the house up 5 feet,
Yeah.
and the septic system up 3 feet, and if you follow their elevations, it's basically all sloping to the abutters property and back into the wetlands and towards the street.
No, sir. We have to maintain 4 feet of separation to the groundwater table. I can't put the system in the ground. For this reason, we have to raise it 3
George,
feet.
just show them where the water's gonna, show them how the grade is gonna be. I think that's the concern, is where's the water gonna go?
Okay, this is the house right here, and this is the septic system right here. The existing grade is right here. The finished grade will be this side, because we have to meet Title 5, we have to meet the town requirement. I can't put the system in the ground. And the finished grade of the slab of the house will be this side. We can't put
But
it.
The slab of the house is 5 feet above
Exactly, I
grade.
can't put it below it.
Understood. All I'm trying to point out
But
to the board
George, but he's trying to,
is that we're gonna be 5 feet above grade for the slab of the house,
Yeah.
3 feet for the septic system, the top of the
Correct.
septic system, which all then slopes. if
okay,
you
that's,
follow their
that's fine, okay, hold on, stop,
elevation
1 second, please.
Slopes out to the above
Okay,
property.
I know what you're trying to say. George, he wants to know where, you're gonna raise this up, where's the water going?
Okay, we have elevation 182. What happened? All the water from the house is going in the ground.
Right.
Basically, we are raising the ground around it,
You have recharge,
3 feet, about 3 feet.
but the yard itself is sloping.
We're sloping back, and the same rain is going to go there, and we have grass over there, it will be grass, and the driveway will be gravel, and the elevation of the first floor will be, like what you said, almost 5 feet above. But I can't put the elevation of the floor below the finished grade.
What?
I understand that.
We have,
I'm just trying to bring some of these points to
All right.
talk about a little bit.
Go ahead.
That's all. I want to point things out that I see. Again, I'm not a civil engineer, structural engineer, septic engineer, any of those things.
Well,
I just look at this drawing and I have some concerns being in a butter and knowing how much wetlands there are here. So going forward from that, their proposal or submittal to the Conservation Commission says they're only bringing in minimal amounts of fill. Yet, again, this slab is 5 feet above ground and the septic is 3 feet above ground. They're grading it out over the course of the entire property, the outside corners and edges of this property, and that's considered minor fill.
It is allowed by
I'm not saying it's not gonna be allowed, I'm just asking questions that we're basically creating a mound in the middle of this property, and it's all gonna slope to the edges of the abutters and into the wetlands.
Every single house, my friend, built like that. We can't build it, again, we can't put a septic system in it now. The system has to be 3 feet, 4 feet separation from the groundwater table. And the floor has to be higher than the finished grade. Simple.
Understood.
Every house you see.
All right, George,
that's how it's built.
that's fine. What other questions do you have, Mr. Gagnon?
So my other question is in regard, one of my other questions is in regard to the swale design. So we're basically saying we're gonna develop a swale here, 5 feet wide by 236 feet long. And it's gonna drop by, I think it was 4.5 feet over that 236 feet and dead end at the end into basically the wetlands buffer zone. You're saying that there's no adverse additional water that's gonna come from that wasn't there already naturally?
Yes, sir.
I can't buy that myself, but I also look at this and I say, okay, I went and looked at this area today. This is saying there's a 4-foot drop between the front and this. I went and looked at that today, there's maybe a foot and a half drop from this end to this end. How are we getting 4 feet there?
We don't go out and survey it. He surveys it, stamps the plan. If you find out that he's lying on all this stuff, then he is liable under his license for that.
I'm not accusing anybody of lying.
Well,
I'm trying to convey what I see.
well, okay, but what you see and what you see in the, when they do the transect are two different things. I don't know why, I don't go out there and auto measure it. I mean, what if we're wrong and then we hire a third party? I mean, this can go on forever and ever. That's why they stamp the plans. Their license is on the line when they stamp these plans for if they misrepresent the truth. Or if the builder who builds it doesn't do it correctly, then they're responsible for building it to the specification of the plan. So so when the plan comes to us, we go by what the plan says, and they're expected to build it. If they don't build it according to plan, then that's a different story.
Right, so skipping that for a moment, we're okay with just dumping whatever water comes, obviously the road or access way is pitched towards that swale and pitched towards Lone Street. And we're basically just gonna dump everything from that swale into the wetlands buffer zone as is, whatever it may be, that's okay. Versus, there's a culvert on Banner Ave that they could potentially take that and dump that into that as a possible solution, so we're not even possibly affecting the wetlands? I'm just throwing out a suggestion.
I understand what you're saying, but the Wetlands Protection Act has certain rules and regulations. When they design them, they build those regulations. Would it be better to go to Banner Ave? Possibly. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, and I certainly didn't analyze it. But all this is done according to the Wetlands Protection Act. That's the key. It was just like the gentleman was here before. The same thing. There are certain rules and regulations, whether I like it or not. They build them. They design it. Is this the best place for a house? Maybe not. But if they have a right to have a house there, if they can meet the regulations.
Understood.
We will, again, assure the people that the swale isn't just gonna dry and dump water there. It's gonna have to have a conveyance to make it continue on its way to that wetland system beyond.
All right, so
But every drainage system discharges into a wetland. That's where most people, and where physically is the most optimum location to direct that stormwater. On any development design, that's where the ponds usually overflow. So he's designed this in accordance, first of all, most of that activity you're referring to is out of our buffer zone jurisdiction. The section in the middle is, again, totally upland, and the two ends are within our jurisdiction. So we are here to just assure you that we're trying to alleviate any concerns for the neighbors, but it's ultimately up to George that designs the final say. So I know that doesn't alleviate all your concerns, but we can't make them pipe it to Banner Ave. That's not an option that we would propose. And then he would have to bulldoze again up through those two other properties adjacent to that section of the road, interrupt more people, and again, so I don't think that is needed. The right thing to do is design it in accordance with the minimum amount of disturbance like he shows here.
So I have a swale in my driveway as well. And the amount of rain that comes through that,
You're referencing something that isn't relevant to this plan, Bob. Stick to what we're referring to here, not to scenarios outside of what we're actually looking at right
I'm
now.
just comparing, I'm not saying it's the same, I'm comparing.
This would
That
be a
swale might
design
not-
swale. Your swale is something you created in your yard by making a depression and allowing water to, convey and
Just like
scour.
they're doing.
This will handle the same. This is gonna be a grass swale, which is part of a design that is incorporated in limited development projects like this.
Understood.
All right,
So,
keep rolling.
furthermore, the culvert that we're planning to put, or they're planning to put under the intersection of Lone and Lone and Register here, this year, what's the purpose of that? And there's very little detail on how, what is this meant to catch? If the access
The
road.
road is gonna trap water that is coming off the west lots. Mr. Sawyer's lots bleed water all day long. It
Yep.
puddles in the middle of the road. This pipe is now gonna give it a place to go underneath the access that Mr. Piver creates. So there's
Okay.
no longer a ponding area, and now it gets conveyed, it reaches a point, it flows through the pipe down to the wetland that is adjacent to Mr. Sawyer's property and within that remaining register
So
area.
what is the overall design of the inlet and outlet of that? All I see in the plan is there's gonna be stones there. We're digging a hole and throwing stones in it, and that's gonna catch everything?
The elevations are right here, slightly below the existing surface. And you get about half a foot pitch from here. Basically, to pick up the water, any runoff here and help it to go.
And then we're basically hoping that the outfeed of it doesn't flood back into the source property, is that correct?
No, we're not hoping for that, Bob. We're not here to adversely affect anybody. We're contributing to that concern Mr. Sawyer's had by giving the water a place to go and allowing it to fall into that swale that is evident along Mr. Sawyer's property and just to the left of his driveway. It's been conveying water for now. Again, some of this work that the pipes have done have disrupted that form of flow, but this pipe will try to maintain that, so we don't have water trapped on one side that is contributed to by that whatever isolated area that bleeds out of Conscript Ave.
Okay.
It will be within Register Avenue layout.
It's within the Lone Street and Register
Yes,
paper ways, yes, it's not going beyond that.
No.
So I have a concern, one more concern about the well location. When I look at the Mass.gov private well guidelines, it says that a well is supposed to be located 10 feet from a property lines and 25 feet from a normal driving surface of any roadway or 15 feet from any right-of-way. But we're only showing it 7 feet away here?
Down by law, it says 6 feet from the ground.
Ask state law, the town bylaws don't like that?
Down, 6 feet.
Okay.
If we pass, for instance, if conservation passes a bylaw, we can we can,
Sorry.
no, let's keep going.
But we're staying away from the wetland.
The abutting, so I know you basically mapped out where abutters wells are. I don't see the well for this property. Is there a reason for that?
It's too far.
How do I know that from that drawing?
It's too far, because we have,
Have you guys located it? Has somebody located it?
it's more than 100 feet. I mean,
Again, I don't see it on the drawing, so I
I'm
don't know
concerned
that for sure.
with those properties that are close to the septic right here. There's nothing here. There's nothing.
And I'm assuming it's in that
So
backyard,
wetland.
it is far enough away, but nothing in this drawing tells me that.
I believe the ones on Banner are flip-flop, Bob.
So
So
it's in
where
the
the
backyard?
ones on Conserve have the septics in the front and the wells in the back, on Banner, I think they have the septics in the back and the wells in the front.
We checked that it's all wetland here, by the way, anyway, it's all wetland here.
Not there, there's not wetland village. Wetland goes to the left.
Sorry, right here, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah, again, that's why they flip-flop.
And again.
And that's because of the setback requirements of being 100 feet away. So that is a good observation, but that actually is a Board of Health
No, we
observation.
checked all the records, I checked all the records. This is not the closest one.
And again, I assume that it was further away, it didn't need to be shown, but I don't see it on the drawing, so I have to ask the question.
Nothing wrong with that.
What about the vernal pool study that you would recommend to Mr. Bowman?
Vernal pool study, nothing came back from any observation except of species. There was no egg masses ever observed to indicate that it's a vernal pool.
You had recommended at the last Conservation Committee meeting about this, that they have a study done in the spring. Has that been completed?
No, it has not.
Thank you. Will that be completed?
I would say no, it doesn't need to, because this area was never designated as that. When you file an application, the area can't be assumed to be. It has to be mapped as such. In this case, it's an assumption. So
what about the vernal pool that I know is over there?
you never documented any masses that of the number that would allow it to be registered as a certified vernal
I had
pool.
shared that information with you. I didn't have it certified, but I had shared that information with you.
Yes, you have. And I saw plenty of photos of spotted salamanders from the neighbors. Correct.
So the fact is, the vernal pool on an adjacent piece of property this
Doesn't dictate that this property still can't be developed. The vernal pool does not stop the applicant from being able to develop the uplands. The vernal pool would end at the limit of the wetland, if there was a pool in there. So they would not be working within vernal pool habitat with this proposed project, unless they filled in the wetland.
So a vernal pool study makes absolutely no difference to limitations on what they can do,
Correct.
areas that they can develop, et cetera.
Correct.
Okay.
I agree with that, too.
Only if they would adversely affect that resource area which the vernal pool is within. That would trigger them to have those concerns addressed.
All right, so my next big concern is the septic system and where it goes down. According to their plan, their septic system...
That's not in our purview, if I may, Mr. Gagné. That is a Board of Health requirement.
So is there going to be another meeting to discuss that? Because they're basically digging down to the bottom to the top of the water table to build the septic.
That's how you build a septic system. You go all the way down to the water table, you fill it up with sand, and then you put the leaching trenches at the elevation established 4 feet above that.
Okay.
That's standard procedure for any septic system.
I think that's all I have for today. That's pertinent, at least based on your feedback. Thank you very much.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
I just have a brief statement of
Just state your name.
concerns.
Just state your name for us if you could.
My name's Kevin Brazito. My wife and I live at 64 Conserve Ave, which abuts the property at 0 Register Ave. I'm here tonight to speak in strong opposition to the notice of intent that been filed to build a single-family home on that lot. This piece of land is mostly wetlands, and every part of the proposed project, the house, the well, dry well, septic system, proposed road access, and driveway, is planned well within the 100-foot wetland buffer zone. The plans don't meet intent of Westport's conservation standards. I'm asking the commission to deny this request. So after reviewing the plans attached to the notice of intent, I have the following concerns in no particular order, and they all fall under the same tier of importance to us. Uncommitted work already performed on the proposed gravel road within the buffer zone. The work that has already been performed on this proposed road, I believe, far exceeds the intentions the town had in granting the applicants to create access to their lot. While the town claims that the Wetland Protection Act does not protect the buffer zone from gaining minimal access to the lot, the work that's already been performed far exceeds access limitations and is more than the realm of the beginning stages of road development. The result as of today is a cleared access path about 20 feet wide stretching from the end of Lone Street to the northeast corner of the Register Ave. And the trees that need to be removed that are mentioned in the NOI swale plans have already been cut down and just moved over to the sides of this path. Boulders that have been removed and cut down just moved over to the sides of the path. With disregard for the buffer zone, erosion control, permitting, or even approval of the NOI. I welcome anyone on this committee to visit the site and take 15 minutes of your day to look at the work that's already been performed and judge for yourselves whether minimal non-invasive access was performed. My next concern is the proposal calls for raising grades by 3 to 4 feet with all the runoff pitched towards the neighboring lots to the east, the lots to the south of Conserve Ave, and directly into the wetland area Taking into account the buffer zone proposed is now only 25 feet. That's a big change and can lead to serious consequences. I'd like to point out that this is not a modern, large subdivision. This is an older, small, established neighborhood with houses in close proximity to one another. Redirecting stormwater and adding fill here will alter how water moves across every abutting property. The wetlands currently act as a sponge for this area. If we stop filling and redirecting that flow, the risk of flooding, stormwater runoff pollution, erosion, and groundwater contamination will rise dramatically. My next concern is the plan includes only a 25-foot no-work zone instead of the standard 100 buffer zone meant to protect wetlands. Cutting that buffer zone down so drastically almost guarantees more runoff, erosion, and pollution, exactly what the Wetlands Protection Act is supposed to prevent. I think the term no-work zone should be used loosely because to the south, within this so-called no-work zone, there's a proposal to perform work by placing a private well only 10 feet away from the wetlands. So this no-work zone seems to be a contradiction on this plan when a private well is going to be drilled within its boundary and only 10 feet from the wetland itself. Which brings me to my next point. The proposed well is 10 feet from the wetlands, even though the state regulations require at least 25 feet. This is a serious contamination risk for both the wetland and the drinking water supply. On the Mass DEP's private well guidelines on page 19, it requires a minimal lateral setback of 25 feet from wetlands. And even this distance requires Westport Conservation Commission to approve the proposed well location if it's within 100 feet of surface water regulated under the Wetlands Protection Act. I'm asking this commission to not just check boxes, but to protect the town's natural resources. I'm asking the Conservation Commission to not simply approve proposals that try to bend the rules of regulatory compliance and to protect the town's natural resources and apply sound conservation principles. The impact of placing a house, a septic, a well, a dry well, and driveway within a compromised buffer zone is significant, irreversible, and has permanent impacts on drainage, wildlife, and water quality. I'm asking the Commission to apply higher conservation standards to protect Westport's valuable wetlands areas, as they are crucial for flood control, pollution prevention, and wildlife habitat. My final and kind of last concern here is that the applicants were well aware that what they were buying and had knowledge that these lots were heavily populated with wetlands and that any upland on these lots would be well within the 100-foot buffer zone. This is a 1.47 acre lot that was bought for $23,000 in this current real estate market, well below market price for anything comparable in size, containing less constraints. And when I say well below market value, that's an understatement. The fact that the lot is a majority of wetlands and that the small amount of uplands that exists fall well within the 100-foot buffer zone is not a hardship unforeseen by the applicant. Granting a variance under these circumstances would send the wrong message, signaling future buyers that they can knowingly acquire a deficient lot and expect the Commission to overlook critical environmental regulations. As Chris Capona, conservation agent, has said in an East Bay, Rhode Island.com article titled "Be Careful Before Buying Westport Land," in regards to the exact lot we're discussing today. The article on August 12, 2024 states, and I quote, "There are no deals remaining. I urge people to do your homework and do your due diligence before you sign for such properties." Then in a reference to 0 Register Ave, he goes on to say, "This land is encumbered with difficulties and has no place to put the house, so I don't know what this particular person is thinking." This statement perfectly sums up the situation, and I agree with the statements. I hope the committee does too. For all these reasons, I respectfully ask the Commission to deny this notice of intent. This proposal is not reasonable for this sensitive property and fails to meet the standards that protect Westport's wetlands and neighborhoods. And I'd like to thank you for your time and consideration.
Can we have that copy?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, sir.
Good evening. My name's Attorney Patrick Matthews. I'm here for the Soers who live just easterly of the proposed project here. I'm not going to reiterate all the concerns that you just, because we just heard about everything that I had noted and I was going to bring to the board's attention. One thing I did notice is that the, with regard to the application itself, it did not confirm that the project was going to meet the performance standards that you normally see, that it wouldn't be relative to working in the buffer zone. That was just an application thing. Also, I noted that there was no variance that has been filed for placing the well where they're going to plan to put it now. So that still hasn't been done. I guess it's contingent upon what they do, what you do here, I would imagine. My client's main concerns are relative to where their properties are. Soers owns this property here, but they also own a house here, okay? And prior to this recent project, for forever, basically, this was a heavily wooded road. Nobody would actually use it to access anything. It basically, I think the attractiveness to the applicant is the fact that it's less wooded than some of the other locations. But the big concern to us is the amount of work that's been going on as of now. Let me see. When I looked at it, we found that the road had been torn up. There's trees and boulders, as has been mentioned, that have been cut. Trees have been cut and left outside the actual roadway and other people's property without permission, without, obviously, there's no signage here. There's no erosion control, nothing. And that's what these people are planning to come to this town and build something. Prior to even looking for any approval, they've already done this. It doesn't show them to be very good neighbors at this particular point. We're very concerned too with this, with not only the color, but this area right here, because we're worried that this is a wetland up here, which isn't delineated really on their plans at all. What we're really worried about is this being overcharged or overburdened by the project that they're doing here. As you've heard from other people, this is essentially going to create a mound. I know it meets the setback requirements from the property line. All this stuff is going to start running this way, just naturally. And it's going to affect these properties. Already, it's affecting this roadway, which used to be basically the Lone Street was basically from Conserve all the way over, was basically not being used other than the driveway. They've actually done a lot of work so that they can get their vehicles in and out of that lot. I understand that they changed the nature of the lot by bringing in soil and things of that nature to change the wetlands so that there's more upland so they can calculate it to qualify for this town's requirements. So I really just want to express on behalf of my clients of their great concern about this project and ask that the board not approve this because they basically are going to be changing the environment negatively. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak?
So I have some images.
Just do me a favor. Just state your name up there in the mic.
My name is Michael Soros. I'm a resident of 56 Lone Street, and I would imagine the person that's most been affected by the work that's been done so far. I put together some images that might help illustrate the matter a bit more.
Thank you.
Just as my attorney mentioned, I'm not going to ride home on things that we've already talked about. But as the homeowner, I have personal knowledge. I've been here for 13 years, and I've dealt with these matters already prior to the Pivas presenting with any desire to build. 12 months out of the year, this is wet where I can't even mow my lawn. Vehicles regularly get stuck when they turn around. The Pivas, the first encounter with a large tractor, got stuck all the way to the axle. This has been my concern from day one. And conveniently, the culvert is located at the cross-section of the two paper roads. Unfortunately, it's about 25 to 50 feet south on the paper road where the water naturally crosses, as Chris recognized himself that several times he's come to the property. So it's going to be difficult to me to understand how the water is going to get up an elevated area to a culvert and then drain subsequently to the east. Like my neighbor recognized, without them having to drastically change the landscape, not only of a paved road, but of a private person's lot. I heard him say he's gonna pour out riprap. I understand those are large rocks, and to put in large rocks, you have to remove a large amount of earth. Again, that's on my private property. I'm not sure who on this board would consent to that when they already know it's gonna lead to ultimately worsening flooding. Then also, this project's been presented as a limited interruption. Well, we've been completely ignoring Conscript Avenue. The only reason that the Pivas have come around to the Lone Street access, which was previously shown as private, is because the Conservation Commission said there's too much wetlands on the western side that they had to come around to find other access. Didn't offer any input or professional opinion on how to find that access, just go find that access. Well, in that time, as the neighbor has recognized, and Mrs. Cohen has recognized, the Pivas had started their own work in making their own road. The planning board has said they're about to do improvements. Well, that's not improvements, that's developments. When you're unearthing trees, when you're cutting down trees, when you're removing boulders, that's development of a road. And then also, when we sent him around to another way, and ignoring the whole side of here where the majority of their uplands are, we sent them back into a buffer zone where the majority of his wetlands are. Why would we send him through one buffer zone that we've identified, another buffer zone we have not identified, another buffer zone we have identified, when he could come in through no buffer zone, no buffer zone, no buffer zone? I don't see how that's a limited impact project.
There was an area of concern on Conserve that I expressed to you that, again, Conscript rather, that was flooded. And it wouldn't be as advantageous as you claim it to be. It's the root of all the water that's draining towards that pipe. So there is an area of ponding that sits right in the Conscript Way. So they would be filling something. So by them filling that, Brazita probably would be affected. So I'm not here to dictate which way Mr. Piva should go. I'm here to dictate what is best for the wetlands on the property. His proposal at first was to go through register and fill in all those wetlands. He later identified he had two upland areas on either side of that property. He chose to access the least affecting area, and that is that side. So that is why we're here. I understand he's done a ton of work. I've received calls for 6 months. We're fully aware that he's been doing some work in that area. We have honored the notice of intent application that now has been submitted to allow him to get that work considered and approved. So as far as you're concerned, he has now filed in accordance with the regulations. This is a buffer zone project. There is no wetlands being altered in this project. Again, this is within 100 feet of a wetland. It's a discretionary area under the Wetlands Protection Act where anybody can perform work. It is not a no-touch area. A wetland is a no-touch area. So your setbacks and all the arguments you're making are not relevant because it's still a buffer zone activity permittable under the Wetlands Protection Act. This again can be allowed. If this commission approves it, you have the right to appeal this decision to DEP and ask them to come in and intervene and render a decision if you feel we have done something negligent. That is all.
I think, and I greatly appreciate your input, but as you recognized earlier on the record, the water drastically flows from my property to my property, does not drastically flow down Conscript. That's something I recognize for the 13 years I've lived here. I have some additional questions myself. Is a BVM, are BVMs the only protected resources under the Wetlands Protection Act?
BVW?
BVW,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, okay, I just want to make sure
sorry,
everybody
I can show it
else.
there.
That's fine, bordering vegetated wetland. For everybody, yeah.
Is that the only protected resource under the Wetlands Protection Act?
No.
No.
Is a stream a protected resource under the Wetlands Protection Act?
Absolutely, but it's within the BVW in this case.
Is a stream regardless of whether it's intermittent or continuous?
Whether it's intermittent or perennial, yes.
Right, it's still considered a stream, right? So then how, something that you recognize, this water flow that goes across my property to that property, as you recognize as an intermittent stream, how is that not its own resource? How are we ignoring that? And if we're only talking about buffer zone, wetland over here, if a watershed that collects water, it has to collect from somewhere, correct? And it has to spread that to another watershed. we're talking about that very waterway. If we're going to protect areas that collect water, how are we not protecting the very water that is being transported to those very locations? This is what I'm having a concern with.
Understood. You have a high water table neighborhood. Mr. Soers said everyone is not going to argue. We are talking about a conveyance. We are trying to convey the water from one side to the other in order to not cause a ponding area. We're not going to discuss all the fill that you placed on your property that was done in the buffer zone. We're not here to argue that, are we? So you have done some manipulation of your own property that may not require submittal and requirements and filing. So I don't want to single people out here, Mr. Soers, but we're all trying to get along. You built a wall. You impeded this gentleman's access to his property. You've done everything possible to try to deter him from accessing this property.
18 times the cops.
So I don't want to get into that, but I'm just trying to convey that we are trying as a commission to do what is best. Maura Healy passed regulations that allow this gentleman to consider developing this on these paper ways. This is something that she is going to cause a lot of problems in the community. This is the first one that we really brought to light, is these paper ways and how these people have rights to it. Mr. Piva has just as much rights to that way as you do and anybody else in that development. So again, we are trying to meet the requirements that seem to minimize all those disturbances. I cannot say that some people may get a little disturbance from it, but it's not going to cause any adverse effect to your property.
And I respect your opinion, and I'm here to, oppose that opinion respectively.
Understood.
And the only reason that if we want to have a gotcha moment about the gravel that I put down, this was prior to you identifying that as an interstream, and I didn't know what that was. I'm a nurse, I'm not a wetland scientist, right? Thank you. And I've done zero work since then. And yes, 100% I dropped boulders. I dropped boulders out of the recommendations of a town officer who I will not name in this meeting. And then I was told by the police that that was something I wasn't supposed to do. The only reason that I've done any of this arguing, the only reason I've hired a lawyer is from the recommendations, which I have in the emails, which I can give to you as a copy as well, which have come from the recommendations of Christopher Cole. The only reason that I've been involved with the police to drag the poor Pivas to get a harassment order is because it was a recommendation from the town police on me to try to do this, because they were all under the impression this was a private way and never thought we would get to this point. So to that regard, I am sorry that I did do work and I didn't know I was supposed to do that was a buffer zone. But again, I have cease and desist without, on my own. I haven't had to have the town called on me multiple times to stop doing work to them that is currently negatively impacting their neighbors. Not potentially negatively impacting me, but currently negatively impacting neighbors. When your driveway freezes over and your fiance slips and falls, that is a negative impact. When you have to spend money on tractor work to re-culvert out the way that's been draining water that you can see in the pictures for 13 years, that is negatively impacting your neighbor. When I have to spend time out of my workday to come to here, to come to meetings, to go to court, to spend time talking to you, that is negatively impacting my neighbors. When I have less sleep because every time I hear a beep, beep, beep down my driveway, I think it's another tractor, and I already have paranoid issues because I have PTSD from my service to this country. That is negatively impacting my neighbors. So guess what? His freedoms end where they infringe upon mine, and you can have your professional opinion all you want, but I can also have my opinion as a citizen of this town, and I appreciate you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So, anybody else want to speak? All right, do we have calculations on runoff and drainage?
That's drainage calcs he's provided, Mr. Chairman, that show there is no increase in runoff from this.
If you want to come up and speak, just state your name, please.
I'm Brittany Alves. I live at 56 Lone. My question is, since they've been doing all this work without approval, how come nobody is enforcing any fines or telling them to stop doing it since they just filed for the notice of intent? They've been doing work since November, and nobody has ever said anything about them stopping, giving them any fines.
Yes, the commission did issue them a letter. Some of the work that they did do, as I was trying to reiterate, was created by others. So again, the access was impeded by them placing boulders. So the Pivas contacted me. I said, well, sure, you can move the boulders. You have rights to get into your property. So there's some work that was pushed for them, trying to get them to be in trouble, but it was done by others.
And what about
so we do not have a fining in our community because we do not have a more stricter bylaw or a wetlands bylaw. So there is no fining under our current regulations to instill on these people.
And then can I just show a video of what that property looks like today after all the rain that we've had? Because it's a mess over there. And all the delivery people are trying to deliver things into that and getting stuck, and we have to tell them not to go in there because we're scared that they're gonna get stuck and then we're gonna get in trouble for it. There's no signage saying that they're not supposed to drive over there. There's mats and gravel poured all over there. It's not a suitable road, but delivery people, UPS, everybody wants to drive up through that way.
Well, that's something I can't control at this time.
I understand you can't control anything, but we live there.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that comment. I try to do my job, and if you don't feel I'm doing my job, that's something you can express. But again, you have rights to appeal to the state. And I do going to say again, this is a buffer zone project. This is a very basic project. I'm sorry you guys feel that it's much more detrimental, but it's not under the Wetlands Protection Act.
The buffer zone is protected under the Wetlands Protection Act?
Yes, it's protected under wetlands, but it's a discretionary area where certain activities are allowed.
So why is it just so drastically reduced to the point where it's only 25 feet?
25 feet is a recommendation of this board as a policy to stay. They could be doing work right up to the wetland if we wanted to.
75 feet below the standard recommended by the state.
It's not 75.
Sir, you want, come up to the microphone if you want to speak. Yeah, well, but so basically the 100 foot is what gives, if it falls under our purview. It doesn't mean that work doesn't get done in the 100 foot. It means it's within our purview. If you look at most of our other hearings going back forever in all different locations, 25 foot, no activity is where is the typical standard. And then, you know, obviously, though they'll be working in the buffer zone, we try to get them, obviously, to mitigate it with dry wells or whatever the case may be. But the 100 foot is not a hard line. If that were the case, there would be no houses built in this town.
Oh, I'm not saying there isn't a variances to, but I mean, 25 feet is like, I mean, it's from here to this chalkboard. I mean, it's minimal. You know what I mean? It's such a minimal protection of this area. It seems just crazy to me. You know?
Do you want to, how long is that video you have, ma'am?
It's only like 3 minutes.
If you could just show us, yeah, just do it. You can show us quickly. Do you guys want to see the video?
Sure.
Quickly? If you want to just bring it up here and just, I know you can't put it on TV, but you can show us, so it's fine. You can put it right in the middle there. I got my spectacles on.
And we didn't really have that much rain this last couple of days. It's been worse. And we were told that we're not allowed to remove the gravel to stop it from flooding our driveway. It also shows you how much they've constructed the road. They did this all before they filed for the notice of intent.
Pardon me, Mr. Capone, my solicitor, the only times there's a, may I speak, I'm sorry.
When we're done with this, sir. And you just come back up to the microphone if you want to speak. So that's the roadway or the proposed roadway? Where the mats are? Okay.
Which he's
Well,
gone
he
and
put
dumped.
the mat so he didn't sink in.
So he could drive his truck up there.
Correct.
He's been driving his truck pretty much 3 times a week, every day, going up, coming down the property, driving, coming around, turning. But he put the rocks and the mats there so he can access his property. We thought that access meant he could walk onto his property, not drive his truck and whatever else he wants to. Bulldozing and whatnot. I thought you had to do permits before you could do anything.
Yes, you do. That is something that they have not, again, but they were waiting to do a perk test. That is something that hinged on how the property was to be developed.
And every time they would come down and do something, they would say that they were doing a test perk so that they could do whatever else that they were doing on the property. Also, we would like to question the validity of the perk test.
Who's the protest? That's Board of Health?
Yeah, that's,
No,
you can
that's
question
not
the
us.
validity of it. I suggest you guys perk your property like I already suggested.
And we will, but we don't have to spend thousands of dollars on an attorney and all this
I
stuff.
understand.
Because this is unnecessary money that we've had to spend.
All right, I think that's good.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Piva, is it?
Soares.
Soares, I'm sorry.
Just, Ms. Capone asserted that the only times that they brought in a tractor was because it was instigated by myself. We have a list of all the dates that they were in and out with the tractor, and I only had rocks placed one time, so I'm not sure if how well that lines up either.
So it said rocks placed one time. I got plenty of photos of how many times you placed rock. And these logs. These logs. So you lied already, once again. The lie to the same down so many times.
All right. Thank you.
No worries.
We have the photos as well.
All right. Does anybody else want to make a comment? George, are you all set?
No, I'd like to say one last
Go ahead.
thing. Just to let you know, guys, that this is a grandfather lot that is buildable. We're not asking for any variance, and it meet the septic and the house meet the requirements of the town, Board of Health, and the state, and we're hoping to get an approval for that.
Your whole developable area is what, 6,300 square feet? Is that what I read?
6750 about
6,750 feet?
in that area of disturbance.
Just this area.
And you've done the test that you're not gonna have any water running off to anybody else's property?
Yes, not, yes.
No calculations,
Matter of
excuse me.
fact, the roof drain is going.
No, I know the roof, but any, the yard, the top of the septic?
If you get 2 inches of rain, the 2 inches is going to go anywhere, anyway. We're raising it 3 feet just to make it, to meet the Title 5 requirements.
Right.
And we're not adding anything. The 2 inches is going to go there no matter what, even if we raise it or we lower it another foot or foot and a half. I mean, the same water is going to get there. It's all going to be grass and crushed stone, the driveway, and we're
All
not
right.
changing anything.
All right, thank you. Did you have a comment, ma'am? Did you want to say something? All right, okay, I thought I heard you say something. I'm sorry. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, we've heard a
Bert?
lot about the buffer zone here. The buffer zone is not an area protected under the Wetland Protection Act. Its only purpose is to protect the wetland. And if you can't show that work in the buffer zone is gonna alter the wetland as the regulations put it, you can work in the buffer zone. Our standards are actually more strict than the state. We have this 25-foot no-work zone. State doesn't have any no-work zone. You can work anywhere in the buffer zone as long as it doesn't affect the wetland. So too much is made of the work in the buffer zone, which is perfectly legal as long as it doesn't affect the wetland. You have to show whether it will affect the wetland or not.
I have a question for George. George, are you going to apply for a permit under the Board of Health stormwater regulation for this? Have you done that as part of?
We're not asking for any variances. I already provided the dry well right here.
Say yes. Say
Okay.
yes, you will.
I'm sorry?
Say yes, you will. In your soil, in your presentation of your sewage disposal plan, they're gonna ask you that you have to address those concerns.
I'm not saying that you haven't done it there, but there's a process, so.
That may be adequate, right, Phil?
So the way the wetlands regulations are set up, the wetlands regulations don't regulate stormwater impacts from a single-family house. Okay? The Board of Health has stormwater regulations that is separate from the septic system regulations, but oftentimes, I think as George has indicated, the plans come together so that the septic plans and the stormwater management plans are all approved at one point in time when they're both ready for review. And the perk tests are part of that, which determines if and where the leach field can be located. Yeah, and so and there's disturbance when the septic tanks, are put in, but then they're buried and then they're grassed over. So the real concern that most people have about stormwater is when you add impervious surfaces like roofs and roads. This is a gravel road, so it's impervious. So all the rain that is going to fall is going to percolate into the ground. And what George is saying is that the water that's going to run off the roofs is going to be collected and put into dry wells, right? Is that what's happening?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so it's going to be collected and put into a well, and then the water is going to be slowly released into the ground. So it sounds like there are issues with what's going to happen with the grades and whether or not, that's going to affect, where the stormwater or excess stormwater is going to go. And what I heard from Chris is saying that they're trying to redirect that flow in a way to avoid it accumulating on the road. But there will be an opportunity through the Board of Health permitting process to see that some of these issues that you're talking about, at least relative to what if any additional stormwater is being generated by the project, will get looked at, and someone who's going to come in and crunch a bunch of numbers, and one of the goals is that the stormwater from the site as it is and the site after its development should be the same. They should be managing all the stormwater on the site. And it sounds to me like they're trying to do that, in terms of collecting all the roof water, and they're not paving the driveway. It's a gravel and dirt road, which means that whatever's falling there is going to go under the ground. But it could turn out that there's a very high water table, and you get a series of storm like this, and the water just comes out of the ground, right? There's nobody can. I mean, what do you do? There's nothing you can do about that. It's not, unless you decide to build a big storage tank underground to do it. So it may seem like we're not, that the issues are not being paid attention, and I don't know what the history of it is, but I think that all the authorities that should be looking at this will look at it, and that it won't be, and that it won't make the situation any worse than it is. But again, I'm not really familiar with that area, but I think if you're concerned about it, you can bring it to the attention of the Board of Health and ask them to look at this when they do the stormwater permit, and that would be the next logical step.
Can you say something, please? Okay, please note that similar homes with similar land characteristics were previously approved and built in this area, and none of them have any nitrogen removal system. Most of them are cesspool or old-fashioned tanks, and none of them have a dry well from the roof or their driveways. We are taking all the roof drain, all the roof runoff, and dump it in the ground.
That's right.
And that's it. This is the only thing. And the other one, we're not changing it much. Again, it meets all the requirements. We're not asking for any variance. And this is how it is. It's a single family home. We're not.
Yeah. Oh.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, does anybody have nothing at the table? Do you have a motion?
I mean, I just think it's worth kind of explaining to people how the process works. If the lots are combined and buildable, and if we vote it down, which is what most of you would like, the applicant will appeal. And if the lots are buildable, the lots are buildable, and DEP overrules our vote. So if we vote it down, it doesn't stop the project if the lots are in fact buildable. It's just, I just like for people to know how the process works so that they don't think they're getting a raw deal from us.
Appreciate it.
All right, do we have a motion?
All right, well, so I will move to approve the plan for the property at Register Avenue, subject to the conditions that are described in Chris's report, which include erosion controls being staked in place at the limit of all the clearing, that the well location will require an excavated sump adjacent to collect any spoils during the installation, and that there'll be this 25-foot no activity zone that will be stabilized with native seed mix, that there'll be a split rail fence to be erected along the entire length of the 25-foot no activity area and shall remain there in perpetuity. So that will be a no work area, forever. And that a drainage swale will be installed during access construction and stabilized with hay bale check dams until seeding is established, and all disturbed edges of the access will be seeded immediately upon completion, and there'll be a 12-foot ADS culvert to be installed under the access, which will require an as-built plan to ensure proper elevations have been obtained, and rip-wrap aprons will be installed on the inlet and outlet sides.
And that's pending all the Board of Health approvals for whether it be septic, stormwater,
both
whatever.
on septic and stormwater.
All right.
Seconded.
All right, that was Phil and Jason. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
All right, Jake opposes. So George, please direct your clients to make sure that these conditions are, first you have to get the permit. And before you do any more work, you have to wait the appeal period, which, in case, I'm sure the neighbors may want to appeal, which means you have to wait for the appeal period, which means no more work in there. And then, once the appeal period's over, if they don't appeal it, then all the erosion and everything else has to be done before they do any other work in there.
Thank you very much.
Because, we sent them a letter, we asked them to come in and file, you filed, in lieu of getting an enforcement order, but, the work just can't continue until this is done. And they have to wait the appeal period.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Can I ask a question?
You come on, it's fine.
What happens if they continue to do work after you tell them not to?
What do you do with the permit at that point?
We could call them back into the commission and reprimand them in a manner that is suffice. As I mentioned, we don't really have fining, so again, that's all we can do is have them come back before us and explain why they're doing work.
We can bring this, if we need, we can also bring the state in as well, if it's serious, if the state wants to get involved. We can call the state and we can ask them to get involved too. But the reality is, I know there's been work going on, I don't know to the extent, but I really hope that they wait the appeal period, because the permit says it has to be filed at the Registry of Deeds, and they have to wait the appeal period for it to be valid. So in effect, if they did work beforehand, they'd be invalidating their own permit most likely.
Thank you. Sorry
All
to
right.
aggravate you.
You're not aggravating us. I feel bad for everybody, because when you have problems like this, and it's not about right or wrong issue sometimes, it's just that the law allows so much, and it just creates a problem.
Up until a week ago, the state wasn't going to get involved, and that's,
They said that
they said now, once that, because they filed the notice of intent, they weren't going to get involved, so it wasn't like this was just going unnoticed and out of the radar.
Usually, yeah, okay. Sure, ma'am.
My name's Jenny, I live on Conservation. I've been living in West Baltimore.
Can you say your whole name for me?
I've been living in West Baltimore for
Could you,
35 years.
all right, can you say your whole name for me, please?
Jenny Swanker.
Okay, thank you.
I've been living in West Baltimore for 35 years. I've never seen what has happened here today. I mind my business, I don't get involved in anything, but that woman comes over to the house screaming.
Okay, please don't, let's not make
Let
this,
me just say something.
don't make it personal and point at
This
people.
meeting was for nothing, because it seems like the minds are made up, so why bother coming here?
Well,
I've wasted my night
okay.
to come here.
Well, you
And I don't
know,
know who this man is, I don't know. What is your name?
Crystal Bowman.
Okay. You seem like your mind is made up.
so let me just explain. Let me explain something. You have the state rules and regulations.
I understand that.
No, hold on a second. No, but you say you understand, but you're not listening. There's state rules and regulations. If he comes in, he presents a plan, if he meets the check boxes, the regulations, okay? And he meets it, then it's our obligation to approve the plan. Now, you have the right to appeal the plan. And if you appeal it, the state's gonna look at it based on their regulations, and they may come to the same conclusion, maybe they'll find something we missed, whatever the case may be, but we approve a lot of projects that I basically, hold my nose at. I don't like the projects. There's a lot of projects on the river I don't like, but no, it's not about picking and choosing. It's about what the regulations say. Because I know if I vote it down, the state's gonna come back and just overrule us. So.
I don't know why he's laughing at me.
He's not.
So, basically, we make our decision based on the statement. So that's based on the rules that we follow. We don't have a bylaw, it's based on the State Wetlands Protection Act, and that's what we make it, and engineers are very good at working within those regulations, and that's, I don't know what else to tell you.
But I'm just insulted.
Okay.
I'm not talking about appeals, I'm not talking about regulations, I'm insulted.
Okay, so what would you have had us do? Just go against what the state regulation is? Okay, so I don't understand what you're insulted about.
Against anything, I just feel that coming to this meeting was a waste of time.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
That's what I feel.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
Standing here while he's facing against me, which I see him smiling.
Okay, ma'am, do you have anything else to add to it? Because
No, but I will take this further.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Do anybody else have anything to say? All right, have a good night, thank you. Next hearing, Allison Coolidge, Thomas Borico, notice of intent, 1787 F Main Road, vista pruning within tree cutting within the riverfront area in the buffer zone. Oh boy. Hold on, do we have your green cards before we start? We do. I have them.
We got him.
Okay, I brought it.
No, that's good. You're all set.
You were prompt.
Thank you.
I always get caught when I miss those, so I just want to make sure.
I don't want to get caught missing those.
Yeah, you come back to another mystery meeting.
All right, go ahead, start your presentation, please.
Sure. For the record, Claire Hogebone, wetland scientist with LEC Environmental Consultants, representing the applicants for the project to propose selective vista pruning and tree cutting at their property.
Okay. Guys, can you take?
Excuse me.
Guys, take it out in the hallway.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. No, that's all right. Thank you.
Don't smile.
No, it affects the recording, yeah.
So the commission might recall that this project for raise and rebuild of the single-family dwelling at this property on the eastern shoreline of the west branch of Westport River was issued an order of conditions this time last year. The property owners and applicants have since poured the foundation and utilized that experience to understand where they want to do the vista pruning and tree clearing to restore historic scenic views from the location of their new house. So the old dwelling and foundations here, that's currently demolished. So they used to have the view in this direction and this direction. So from the new house, what they want to do on the western view corridor is just true vista pruning to the letter of the definition. They just want to clear 4 to 5 dead trees, and those will be distributed throughout the forested area to reestablish some wildlife habitat value. And they would like to trim dead or dying branches on eastern white pines from sort of the bottom to midpoint of the trees, so they'll leave the living branches on the top of those trees. At the southern view corridor here, we have 2 small polygons that indicate cumulative areas of 3 large deciduous trees they would like to cut and 2 sapling American holly shrubs. And the larger polygon at the southernmost point is a grove of oak saplings. They want to remove approximately 10 to 15 of those. All of the work for tree cutting would just be cut down to the stumps, so the root systems would be left in place to avoid any disturbance to the soil profile. And it'll all be done by certified arborists. They already have had somebody come out to the site, and they've indicated their means and methods to essentially climb the trees and cut as they work down. So no equipment will be required for this work. We provided a brief regulatory discussion on the work here. As you can see in this lighter blue color, that's the 200-foot riverfront area extending from the western branch of the Westport River. We're also proposing the tree cutting to stay outside of 50 feet from that river boundary. So this line right here is the 50-foot. All work is staying out of the land subject to coastal storm flowage boundary. And we are within the 100-foot buffer zone to coastal bank as well. But again, with respect to coastal bank, the project has been designed to avoid any root removal, so there's no soil disturbance proposed with the project. We did briefly address that the project has no adverse impacts to the riverfront area's capacity to continue providing functions and values in accordance with the Act. I'm happy to go through it more, but I want to respect your time. It's been a long evening, so I'm passing it back to the Commission.
Thank you.
Can you just add, just through the chair, that this is a preserved piece of land?
Oh, yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This line here indicates that everywhere in this area here is all conservation land that the applicants and property owners donated in 2007. So when they were preparing this plan, we indicated, hey, some of that's going on conservation land. We need to reach out to the trustees. So we corresponded with them, and they provided reserved right approval documentation that we included in the notice of intent application for the Commission's records that's allowing this work to occur on the conservation land. And with that being said, Chris, I appreciate you bringing that up, because I realized in the notice of intent application I provided a document that didn't have the signature from the property owners, so I wanted to give you one for the record.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Chris?
Mr. Chairman, members, this is Allison Coolidge and Thomas Barrico, owners of 1787 F Main Road. This is a notice of intent application filed by Claire Hogaboom from LEC Environmental. Report date is October 9th, 2025. There is a file number with no adverse comments. It's SE 802-815. The site visit was also on October 9th, 2025. The property is located on the west branch of the Westport River and is a 24.7 acre, mostly wooded property. The owners of the property, in agreement with the trustees of reservations, are the CR holders, are proposing selective clearing to obtain a view of the river. The new home and associated work has been permitted on a prior order of conditions. The associated work is to conduct vista pruning and some tree removal to create 2 view corridors. The vista pruning is allowable activity under the minor exemption under 310 CMR 10.02 as long as it has taken place 50 feet from mean high water. All proposed work will be above the 50-foot setbacks from mean high water. The location of the view corridors were carefully selected to limit the amount of work. On LEC's behalf, they did meet with me prior to this presentation. And also have been very clearly working with the clients to limit those areas of best opportunity to obtain those views. A total disturbance of 8,227 square feet within the 100 feet and the 100 and 200 foot areas are the riverfront areas proposed. So it varies, but they're working within that 100 foot on some, but mostly it's the 100 to 200 foot. All activity will be conducted by a licensed arborist, as Claire mentioned, with climbing involved and no use of equipment. The tree removal within the view corridor will allow the understory growth to thrive, maintaining a stable slope. Although no significant adverse impacts of riverfront is anticipated, mitigation has been provided to offset the disturbance, and this is within the construction of the home. Portions of the riverfront area that were permitted within the new single-family home limit of work will be restored with native seed mixes and shrub plantings. So within our approval of that new house location, they had incorporated those features to enhance this current floor, knowing that they would like to commence this vista pruning. Resource areas impacted are the riverfront and the coastal bank. Recommendations to the board: the Westport Conservation Commission should consider approving the proposed view corridors at 1787 F Main Road, allowing tree removal and vista pruning within the designated areas as shown on the engineered plan from Schneider, Davignon, and Leon, dated September 29th, 2025. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have any questions, Claire? No?
No.
Okay. Questions from the table, if not a motion?
Thank you for actually coming before us, before pruning, as opposed to most people in Westport, so we appreciate that. And thank your clients for putting in a conservation restriction as opposed to everyone trying to squeeze a house in every lot in this town.
I just have a question. Is there a plan that actually kind of reduces this down to the, like, tree to tree level, that, okay, here are the ones that are gonna get marked, and so that when the arborist goes out there, is this like a thing where the best plans, intentions don't actually happen when the contractor goes out there and
I do suggest, Mr. through the chair, that
Yes.
we can put conditions that the trees be clearly marked in advance.
Okay.
I think we're open to that they're clearly marked. So the applicants were, they did a site visit with the arborist that they're hiring to do the work, and they indicated the specific trees. There's even one of the photos in the NOI application. I remember the landscape architect sent it to me and said, it's this one, and this
Great.
one. So
Okay, cool.
they're very aware that they don't want to go overboard, because they really appreciate the scenic view that remains from the water as well, and they want to sort of strike that balance of a view and privacy and
Correct.
environmental stewardship. So I think they're certainly open to the trees being tagged and inspected by Chris before any work is done.
Thank you.
That's great, appreciate that.
Motion to approve.
Motion from Jake. Second, Jason, all in favor? Opposed? All right, that's unanimously on.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Certificate of compliance, Stephen Beaupre, SE 80, 1847, 221 Robert Street.
This is which one, Mr. Chair?
Beaupre, Stephen Beaupre.
Stephen Beaupre is 221 Robert Street. This is certificate of compliance for file number SE 801847. The site visit was on October 7th, 2025. Report is also October 7th, 2025. The property has an old order of conditions at the registry. The order of conditions was for a single-family home construction, well and grading that took place in 2010, 2011. All work appears to have been completed according to the plan. This was a buffer zone activity to Sordie Pond. Recommendations: Westport Conservation Commission should issue a full certificate of compliance for file number SE 801847, as all work has been completed according to the plan of record.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's Jake and, who was that, Kevin?
Kevin.
All right.
Kevin came alive.
It's alive. Okay.
She didn't call you out.
Mary Spears, SE 80, is that right, 275? Is that old?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chairman. You're not seeing things.
Zero East Shore Road, certificate of compliance.
This is Mary Spears, Mr. Chairman, East Shore Road, certificate of compliance. For some reason on the order, they call it Driftwood Road, which I've never heard it to that extent, but this is the end of East Shore Road. File number SE 80275, this dates back to 1988, when the applicant constructed a small structure on Woods Point, which is a peninsula extending from East Shore Road. If you've all looked down from 88 going southerly, you look, there's a little shack on that little nubble of ledge that sits right against the 88 bridge. This has no septic. This is simply a structure that was permitted at the time. The access is across the salt marsh by way of a boardwalk. I do have some relative concerns that I will express once these new owners take it over, but that boardwalk is not permitted in the accordance with the current regulations. It's only 18 inches above the marsh. And a neighbor called and said they posted a file number, so I'm not sure if they think that they can do work, so I was just curious on that aspect. But apparently a neighboring abutting to this is buying the property from the Spears. The recommendation, the Westport Conservation should issue a full certificate of compliance for file number SE 80275. And again, the Spears, Mr. Spears, if you all want to know, he invented the G.I. Joe.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, that's Jake
What do you
and,
think of that?
all in favor? Opposed? Isn't he in Warwick? I thought I saw him on Channel 12. Did he just pass away, maybe or something like that?
Yes, I'm not sure how long ago he passed away.
I saw something about the G.I. Joe guy on
Yeah,
TV.
Mr. Spears was part of that group that worked for Hasbro and
Oh,
designed it.
that's interesting. Did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, I just, before he had left, I shot review Commissioner Chris. He's, that guy, Susan Solis, by quite a few times, even to Ralph, the building department, about machinery and stuff being moved. And Ralph told me why, because he put a car underneath the tire and it never got moved. So I just wanted to make that clear. And if Chris can maybe meet me at the property tomorrow to see exactly how it looks right now, because I don't trust him. That's why he's trying to make a point right now that we're gonna go do something, and I'm not gonna go do nothing.
Why do you call the office tomorrow, and maybe if Chris, you may go on out there, but,
Thank you.
yeah, just give the office a call if you're worried about that. But if anything, documentation with date stamped photos is always a great thing too.
Mr. Piper, where's the camera?
I just wanna make sure he's not gonna say that we're over there doing stuff when we're not doing stuff,
All right.
because he's done it multiple times already.
All right.
And Ralph knows it from the building department.
Okay. But you do know, like, when this order is issued, there's a waiting period, which is the appeal period, which I'm sure they're gonna appeal it anyway, so you shouldn't even, just stay away. I mean, you can go there with Chris and maybe document it, but that'd be the extent of doing any work there.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, lastly, Jason Walters, SE 802533 79 Gidley Lane.
Jason Walters, 79 Gidley Lane, is a certificate of compliance. The plan was filed by South Coast Engineering. The file number for the project was SE 802533. The date of the report is October 7th, as well as the site visit was on October 7th, 2025. The owner has filed requesting a certificate of compliance for a septic system installation at 79 Gidley Lane. This is off of John Reed Road. The repair was within a small lawn area of the updated cottage. It was an old rundown cottage that someone put a little facelift on. All work was completed in accordance with the plan of record. Driving by the site, everything is correct. The Westport Conservation recommendation should issue a full certificate of compliance for file number SE 802533, as all work has been completed according to the plan of record.
All
That is
right,
almost.
motion?
Motion to approve.
Jake? Phil? All in favor? Opposed? All right, that's unanimous, I know. Okay, few bills, that's it. Minutes from 9:30, present, Jake, Burton, myself, Phil, and Jason. Kevin was not here. Do we have any changes, or if no changes, a motion to approve? Thank you. Do you have a second? Okay, thank you. That was Jake and Jason. All in favor? Opposed? All right. That takes care of that. We have East Bay Media Advertising, 369. Motion?
Motion to pay.
Second.
All right, that was Kevin. That was Jake and Kevin. All in favor? Opposed? All right, that's unanimously on. What the hell is this? Oh, I'm gonna leave that one to the last. We'll have to itemize that one. WB Mason, 9485. We need a motion to pay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Phil. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Lastly, we have Chris Capone mileage, $368.20. Just for the record, this is from 8/19 to 10/10. Okay, motion to pay from Jake. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Phil. All in favor? Opposed? That's unanimously on.
What was that Gillette Stadium mileage that I saw around there?
No, that was the, that was.
Megan, that
was the Patriots tickets.
I was there at 28, I was.
All right, anything else, Chris, or can we go home?
The only thing I want to bring to the commission's attention is the town administrator approved our budget and doesn't feel that it's in need of having a meeting with us to discuss it any further. I stated to him that that's fine, and I will reiterate to him that the commission is fine with our proposed budget as written.
It's the same thing every year, plus the raises.
So we don't really have
Not much to discuss.
He's retiring in a month, so.
Yes, well, he's pushing them along real quick. I don't know why. He wants all the budgets all ready to go, so.
Yep.
So I have all that.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second? Second from Phil. All in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, Valerie.